conclusions, I sort of don't get a real sense of what they would be. And this is the challenge with us communicating with other people. We do not have the power very often to just tune into what makes that other person tick. Now, over a period of time, we get to know people and we get some information that gives us some better clarity around that. But can you imagine if you had the ability to tune into someone's station and get on their wavelength, if that was at all possible? Now, how do we communicate? Where does it come from? It comes from three basic areas. Let me take that flashing off, it's rather disconcerting. It comes from three basic areas. It comes from nature, it comes from nurture, and it comes from our experience of maturity. Nature, our DNA, our disposition, our characteristics, our mums, our dads, our family heretics. We've also got nurture as well, as in the environment that we grew up and what we made of that environment. So our values and our belief systems, and therefore our rules of the world associated to those values and those belief systems that exist there as well. Now, what tends to happen to us very often is we suffer from what our friends in the East sometimes call, when I was working up in Tokyo, I got told this, Western thinkers suffer from this thing called monkey mind. Has anyone ever heard of that? Monkey mind? Yes, we've got a couple of nods. The definition of monkey mind is when your mind becomes so preoccupied with so many other things, and if you imagine the visual of all of these mad monkeys swinging from limb to limb, branch to branch, occupying your head on a daily basis, taking up space, taking you away from everything that you need to be focused on. And it sort of looks a little bit like Bob here, who started off the day really, really well, but over the course of the day, things start to build. And he suffers from this condition called monkey mind. Clarity of mind first thing in the morning, but by about 9:30, this is about 9:30 for most people, it's sort of looking a little bit like this, okay? Something like this, a little bit of monkey mind. Now, what we do know, and I like to call that frequency overload, what we do know is that when you're preoccupied with things in the present, when you're preoccupied with things from the past, you cannot, in the future and in the past, you cannot be in the present. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay? So if you're sitting there even now thinking about the things that you should be doing, the phone calls that you could be returning, the email that you didn't get round to responding to this morning, the half-finished conversation that you left home with this morning, the dry cleaning, what are we having for dinner tonight, and everything else, you're suffering from a bit of monkey mind, okay, or frequency overload. And I need you to work in a couple of activities coming up very soon, and what I'd ask of you is some little post-it notes we'll put down there in front of you. Now with the post-it notes, here's what we're going to do, something very liberating. You're going to write down on the post-it notes the things that are taking your mind potentially from being here right now. Now there's only a few, so keep them to the priority monkey mind moments. Okay, one per page, phone call, catching up, and bless you if you don't have things to write. Okay? Sorry?
No, truly, if we were listening and not thinking about anything else.
Okay, right now, other things that could be occupying your mind, and if you don't, then bless you. Bless you. Okay, but if you have got little moments of monkey mind, it would be perfectly natural and perfectly normal too. So what we're going to do, for those of you that have no monkey mind, hold those empty pieces of paper with pride. For those of you that have got a little bit of monkey mind, you're writing them down. And you can't do anything about those things right now. Would you agree? And if you can't, let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of them, because I'm going to get you to do a couple of activities where I need you to be present.
Can I use it as a reminder for later?
You can. You can. I love a multitasker. Time management. Okay. So, for those of you that don't want them as a to-do list, what I'd like you to do is take those pieces of paper, screw them up and throw them up in the air. like graduation day, really, isn't it? Get rid of them. If you need to keep them as your to-do list, do that. That's okay. I think there's some communication taking place non-verbally with the paper moving around. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now what I invite you to do is to have a 3D conversation. A 3D conversation consists of this. It's a deliberate dialogue that means something to the person you're going to have the conversation with. Now here's how it's going to work. I'm going to ask you to actually buddy up with one other person. And a great thing would be that you buddied up with someone you didn't know too well. Okay? Now, I'm going to ask someone to be person A and someone to be person B. Person A will share with person B a particular experience of miscommunication. Now, don't go too dark and deep and anything that's going to need couches or anything. All right? This is a simple example of miscommunication related to potentially that shopping list of poor communication opportunities that were highlighted earlier. And you're going to have this conversation. Now, the Bs are going to do a couple of things. They're going to quieten down the frequency overload. Now, what we know is we speak around about 100 words per minute. Our brain has the capacity, and I'm sure in this room, far more than these averages, to process information of up to 10 times that speed. So there's a bit of space left, isn't there, between listening to the 100 words and processing up to 1,000. And we use that time in our mind. And what we want to do is to use that time in our mind related to the person we're having the conversation with. Now, I use an example there. When we communicate, do we communicate as dial-up or broadband? And what I mean by that is all of us have had an experience where we've walked away from someone that leaves an aftermath or an afterglow. Okay? Do we know people that leave aftermath experiences? And do you know the people that leave the afterglow? So what I'm asking you to do is to dedicate a very short period of time, those of you that are going to be B, to learn how to listen as a broadband listener with this 3D conversation. What it means is the conversation won't be about you. Now this will be rare for some people, all right? And what it does mean is that this is a quality conversation that you'd want to be having when you want a good result. So for most of us, we go through the day with a load of one-way information that we dump on people, and we expect them to understand it, and we'll label it as communicating with them. This is actually about understanding through active listening what is going on for that person and not filtering it through your perception of whether you agree, disagree, believe it or not. It's their story. It isn't about you. Now you can ask really good quality questions about how did that feel, what did it mean to you. Don't go all psyche on them because that's really weird with new people, right? But you're going to dig deeper into understanding what's going on for them. So let me paraphrase again the activity. Person A and person B. A will be sharing a story of miscommunication of a reasonably surface experience. Not too deep, because we don't have all afternoon to debrief. Now, person B, your job is to stop the monkey mind and just be present with that person and hear their story the way that they're sharing their story with you. And you don't need to give permission that it's an okay story or it's not an okay story. Your job is purely to listen and to understand and demonstrate empathy. A very cliche word,